Hello, my name is Travis Muntz, and for my oral presentation, I want to discuss the advantages of using free weights as opposed to machines and how they correlate to the OPT model. When starting my research, I was able to come across several different advantages and disadvantages for using free weights, but there were some that I saw more than others, so they stood out more to me. With the pros, the biggest one that I could find was that free weights help utilize stabilizing muscles when using. There's also an increase in athletic performance. You're also able to utilize a more balanced approach when coming up with training routines. With the cons, the biggest one definitely is that you are not able to utilize singular muscles with free weights as you can with machines. There's also a larger increased risk of injury, especially if you're lifting heavier. And then finally, there's also a larger learning curve with free weights because they require a little bit more skill with machines. So if you're a beginner, it can be a little bit of a disadvantage. With the OPT model, I wanted to correlate free weight training with each block of the model. So starting with the first one, stabilization, I thought free weights had a bigger advantage than machines in this one because free weights allow you to develop motor and neuromuscular skill, and this is through a kinetic chain which helps increase synergy, stabilization, and proprioception in the body, which is very important because if you're not mastering stabilization, the base of the OPT model, you're not going to get the full benefit of the next two in strength and power. There's also a study that's found that there was enhanced strength through neural changes, especially when working with stabilization, so that sets you right up for the second block, strength. And then block number two, strength, there was a study by Brown and Hill that found that with greater exertion and big lifts in free weights, there was a higher production of endogenous hormones, which helps increase muscle mass and strength. And then finally, going to the third block, power, free weights have the ability to utilize powerful movements and using greater effort, and this allows for a higher power development. When looking at the cons and coming up with rebuttals, I looked at each. So starting with the first one, the most important one, and the fact that you cannot utilize a singular muscle with free weights, it's not very important, especially when you are working with athletes, because during athletic competition you are very rarely, if ever, using a singular muscle. You're going to be using several different muscles if you're not your whole body in a link. So utilizing and using free weights helps prepare athletes during competition to use their full potential. And then the final two, a larger risk of injury and learning curve, I thought worked hand in hand. With learning curve, you kind of want that when lifting, especially if you're a beginner. You want to be able to learn the proper mechanics and movements, because if you don't, you're not going to get the full benefit of your lifts, and so you're not going to see a greater impact. And then finally, with the risk of injury, if you know those proper movements and mechanics, you're going to decrease that risk of injury. And you have to be very mindful in the weight room. So if you know if you were lifting heavy that day, you need to make sure you're using proper mechanics, the proper equipment, and if needed, you need to have the proper aid there to help spot you. So with that, that concludes my oral presentation. Thank you.